Hello, it's Linda here, aka Inio. This is part 2 of my beginner stream setup video. So I've been streaming for about 2 years publicly, and I've learned a few things along the way. I still am learning, of course, and do still feel new at times. So what I'm about to go through, this is kind of what's worked for me, kind of really scrappy setup just to get things working the best and with pretty good quality as far as sound and stream quality as well. So when I stream on my computer or laptop, I mainly use OBS, the Windows version. So this is my OBS screen and what it looks like when I first open it up. Now I recently had to reset all my OBS settings because I was testing out so many add-ins and so many settings that I got tips from other videos, and it ended up making my stream laggy and crash sometimes. So I found that when I deleted all those add-ins and restarted my OBS to factory settings, it helped a lot with the performance. So I might mention a few optional add-ins you can put into your OBS software, but they are all completely optional, and I want to keep it as simple as possible. So when streaming, audio is very important to me, and I have my mic set up with a Razer Mini Seirin, which I highly recommend as a starting out mic. When you first start a scene in OBS, it will have a default scene for you, and it will always come with desktop audio and mic/aux audio. With the desktop audio, I haven't figured out how to remove it. For me, it never captures the audio quite like how I want it, so I always have it set to muted. So it's just always there, and I ignore it for all the scenes I have. Now with mic audio, that one I use exclusively with my mic, and you could set it up with mic you're using. And starting out, you might have to go into the settings by clicking the 3 dots and go into properties and change it to the microphone you are using. I used to have a bunch of filters on this, but I found with my Razer mic, I don't really need them as much anymore, so I don't have any filters. Some videos do recommend having a noise gate filter and a compressor to help even out the audio, and if you have high volumes, it could possibly mute it out as well. And I used to use noise gate as well to prevent volumes that are too high. And I felt like I had to use that with my older, lower quality mic. But with this new mic, I don't use anything. So I'm not going to go into those settings right now. And it just makes the setup more simple. For this particular mic, I do set the levels outside of OBS in my Windows sound settings to 80%. And usually I check this right when I open up the computer before I stream. And so to do that, you can go to your sound settings here. You could right click and go to sounds, make sure your mic is plugged in. And then at the top, if you go to recording and then find your mic that you're using here, mine's a Razer Seirin Mini, right click on that and go to properties. And at the top, you'll see levels. And I always set it to 80%. And I record really close to the mic. I find that it's easier to hear when I talk softly or even whisper, but it also isn't too loud. When I find that I want to raise my voice or maybe yell, sometimes I can't plan this, but I try to step away from the mic a little bit. Like if I want to yell, I'm trying to step away from the mic. But the Seirin Mini has really good sound isolation as well. So even if I step to the side of the mic, this is me stepping about a foot to the right of the mic, you can barely hear me, so being right in front of the mic works for me. But this is at 80%. Now I try to not put it at 100 because that's when distortion comes in. It could go really loud and hurt your ears. This is what it sounds like at 100%. I'm just talking at the same volume as before, and you could see it's really, really loud. I might turn down the volume for this video so it doesn't hurt your ears, but you could hear how it's very distorted. And the other thing to pay attention to is on OBS, you could see how it's distorted in the levels. So it's all going out to the red right now, and that's not good. So putting it back to 80, it's more comfortable, and sometimes it goes to the red, and if you're really loud it might go all the way red, but it's good to test out how it sounds because sometimes it's totally fine when it goes all the way to completely a red bar, but you want to try to minimize that as much as possible for a pleasant listening experience for your viewers. Now, sometimes these sound settings can be finicky. I have opened up my computer at times and the levels will be down to 60 or all the way up to 100 all on its own without me changing the settings. So it's good to regularly check that this is at 80 or at a sound level that works for your mic. If you're using a different mic, you want to test out this level and see how it sounds because 80 might not be the best for you. You might be better at a higher level or a lower level depending on how sensitive your mic is. Going back to OBS, during my entire stream, I'm constantly looking at the sound levels, and I also recommend, especially when you're starting out, to do a private test stream that's either private or unlisted. Change the privacy here so you can do some test sounds, try whispering, try yelling, and see how it sounds when you play back the video. So I do that quite a lot, especially with new games that might have different sound levels. And you could also adjust the volume here. Right now, for my current mic, I have it set to 100 and that works, but I have used mics that were more sensitive where I had to bring down the decibel levels to something like -3 or -4 so it doesn't become too loud. As long as it's in that upper orange to red area, I feel like that works for me. You also want to compare it against any ad volumes that play on your video and try to match the ad volumes as that's the most optimal sound volume for YouTube. You could also try to match it against the top streamers out there that have videos out or top content creators to see where their volume levels are and test and see if it's too quiet or too loud compared to the top creators out there. And it doesn't take much to adjust the volume. And just to give you an idea, this is what my levels look like in CapCut if you want to edit videos as well and you want to gauge how your sound will sound, and I feel like this level is optimal for me. Now, another thing about this particular mic I'm using, I changed it from the Blue Yeti, which was actually more expensive, but I find that this Razer Seirin Mini performs so much better because there is more evenness in the sound and less poppy noises. And I also really like this Razer mic because since it's really good at isolating sounds, I find that I'm able to stream games with my voice audio without any headphones. With previous mics like my Blue Yeti, it would capture the sound from the game, so sometimes there would be echoes, especially during dialogue from the games, and that's not the best listening experience either. I find that gaming with headphones or even earphones can be uncomfortable for me, so I'd rather sometimes do without it, and I can get the surround sound with my gaming speakers. But if you don't have good isolation on your mic, I recommend streaming with headphones so you don't capture the game audio in your recording. But I do use a pop filter as well right in front of my mic, and I have it attached to a microphone stand actually that's standing from the ground, but you can also use a clamp to your desk if that works better. You can also test out with mics through your headset. However, all the headset mics I've tested were not as good quality as my Seirin microphone, so I try to stick to that as much as possible. I also have clip-on mic lapels with little fuzzy tops that you could clip onto your collar, and mine were really cheap, about 20 bucks, so they're not as good quality as my actual Razer mic, but I do use that if I'm gaming with another person like EPS, so we could both clip one to our collar and you could hear us both at the same time loud and clear, or if I just want a little bit more portability so I'm not lugging around my mic stand and pop filter everywhere. Now, with capturing game audio, this one can be a little bit finicky. For capturing the game audio, I always choose Application Audio Capture. So you click the plus button and you could see it at the top. Even though it says beta, it's always worked the best for me. And you can choose any source or window that has audio coming out. So I already have it set up here. And here's a little tip. I have it in the name the decibel levels that has worked for most games for me. So 7.3 seems to be the sweet spot for most of the games I've been playing, and I play a ton of games. I make sure that when the game audio plays, that the volume goes a little bit above the green, but my voice is always higher than the game volume by just a smidge. Now, sometimes it helps to speak maybe during the quiet times. That's how I like to set up my audio. So the game audio is a little bit above the green into the yellow. If it's always below the yellow and only in the green, I find it's too quiet for YouTube and compared to my voice volume, of course. So you want to make sure the highest volume is within that yellow range and your speaking voice is within the higher yellow range, even toward the red. And again, you want to test this with your own settings and record it back and replay it back to see what works for you. And try to capture the loudest sounds like motorcycle revving, rock music with high drums, thunder, combat music that might be very loud. Try to capture the highest in that range. As you can see right now, during the game, there's no music. There's just a little walking step noises walking around the city. So it doesn't get that loud. That's totally okay. You never want the quietest noises of the game already in the yellow. So that's just some of the things I think about. So as I stream, I try to have both of these levels up open all the time, and I'm constantly looking back to see while I'm talking if people could hear me, or while the game is playing if you could hear the sound. And don't be afraid to ask your audience if the audio and sound is okay as well. I frequently ask my audience at the beginning of the stream, like, are you guys able to hear me okay? Is the game too loud? And I have some awesome community members that also mention like, hey, I can't hear you as well, or the game is really quiet. So I can adjust as needed here with the levels on the spot. And so with my optimal settings, I like having it for most games starting out at 7.3 or around that range and adjust it as needed. Sometimes I have to adjust it with every new game I play. And because I like negative 7.3 decibel levels, I put that in my title as well because I tend to copy this and paste it as a reference in many scenes I have. Okay, that's all about the audio. I really care about how my audio sounds. I want it to be a smooth, pleasant listening experience for all. So I spend a lot of time researching that, testing things. After 2 years of research and trial and error, these are the simplest settings I have for my audio, just setting it at 7.3. For the game audio, setting mic and aux to 100, playing around with the levels, setting the levels at 80. So those are the 3 key things. Game audio at negative 7.3 decibels, mic at 0 decibels or default, and mic levels on the Windows settings at 80 out of 100. Okay, so that's all about the audio. We'll go into more settings like display and other optional settings in OBS in part 3. So if you like this video, definitely give a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to be notified for when that video comes up. And also, I do live streams of various games right here on YouTube almost every day. So be sure to check out my playlist tab if you're interested in seeing me die a lot in any of those video games. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.